Welcome into the show, everybody. Christian Ojakjian here with Blake Byler, who covers Alabama for BAM Online on the On3 Network. Blake, thank you for being here with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a good time.
So Alabama has been one of my favorite teams to watch the past few years. I just love the system that Nate Oats has. It's just fun basketball. I love the players he recruits. I love the rim and three rate. I love the tempo. It's just fun. And 2 Sweet 16s, a Final Four, and an Elite Eight in the past 5 years. A number 1 overall seed mixed in there as well. LeBaron Phylon surprised everyone by coming back to school at the 11th hour. And the roster, to me, feels like it's flying a little bit under the radar. I think people are kind of discounting the scheme fits of everybody and some of the upside with these guys. So before we get into some of these pieces, just walk me through just the approach to the offseason and just kind of the temperature of the program right now. Because even though losing to Duke was a disappointment, obviously that team was amazing. And that 25 for 51 3-point game against BYU was just one of the most amazing things we've ever seen as well.
Yeah, I mean, just to go back to last year, they came into the season with really high expectations, had some preseason number 1 kind of hype going into the year. They ended up not having a single game with every player on the roster healthy, which was unfortunate, kind of capped the ceiling of what the team could be. Because, Chris Youngblood was hurt at the start of the year, and then Latrell Wrightsell tore his ACL, or tore his Achilles, early in the year. So those guys never got to play together. But it was a good year, and we're kind of in the middle of maybe the best stretch of Alabama basketball history ever, coming off of 3 years ago, the number 1 overall seed, made the Sweet 16, and then the Final Four, and then last year, the Elite Eight. That's kind of unprecedented level of success for the program. So they're riding a bit of a high going into this season. The offseason approach was interesting because last season's team had so many seniors on it. A lot of really experienced guys. Mark Sears, who's been in the program for 3 years, one of the best players in program history, was gone. Grant Nelson, a huge contributor. He was out of eligibility. Cliff Amori, Chris Youngblood, like I mentioned earlier, all of those guys phasing out. And then you have the natural kind of attrition to the roster with the transfer portal and everything like that. So it was hard to kind of know what this team was going to look like. They hit the transfer portal. They got 4 guys out of the portal. They got 4 freshmen coming in. But really the biggest addition in the offseason wasn't really an addition at all. It was getting LeBaron Phylon back really at the 11th hour, like you said. I didn't really know what this roster was going to look like if they didn't get Phylon back, because they have a ton of shooters, and I'm sure we'll get to that. I think this has the potential to be one of Nate Oats' best shooting teams that he's ever had, kind of across the board. They filled some other needs, plugged some different spots with the portal, but they didn't really have a true creator point guard before LeBaron announced that he was going to come back. And he had actually said he'd done interviews with ESPN and other outlets that said, he was staying in the draft. That's what it sounded like. And then literally 30 minutes before the deadline, Alabama's collective drops the bomb that he was coming back. I was actually asleep when the news came out, and I woke up the next morning to that news. And to me, it just raises the ceiling of this roster so much, because Phylon is such a good creator and has such good vision with the ball in his hands, and is a true point guard that can run this system and be a guy who I think he's going to have crazy assist numbers this year because of the amount of shooters that Alabama's going to have on the perimeter. And he knows the offense. He's been in it for a year. He has kind of an NBA mind type of understanding on reading, reacting, distributing to his open teammates. He's a great scorer as well, but I think he's really going to thrive running this offensive system this year, and that just helps this team be even better than I thought it could be before he came back.
Was there a certain thing that happened or that he said about his decision to come back? Was he just getting a little cold feet on the NBA, or was he like, I want to win a title at Alabama? Was the NIL offer sweetened at the last moment? Do you kind of know what happened?
I really don't know what flipped him at the last second. I do know that he had a pretty good NIL offer from Alabama, as anyone of his caliber would. Obviously more than he had a season ago, but I really don't know what the exact reason was. I think maybe he just kind of felt like he could improve his draft stock by coming back for a year, which I think he could, because he was really right there looking at projections in that kind of late first round, early second round range. And you want the guaranteed money if you're going to go to the NBA. And that guaranteed money, you don't necessarily get it in the early second round if he were to slip to the 31st, 32nd, 33rd pick or something like that. So I think he's coming back really just to improve his draft stock. I know he loves Alabama. He's from Mobile, which is it's South Alabama. Like he loves the program, loves the state, loves being able to kind of rep the state on the front of his jersey. He's talked about that plenty of times. So that on top of being able to boost his stock, and I know he's coming into this year with a lot of hype potentially in the year as a mid first round, maybe even a late lottery pick. I mean, that would be huge for him and go a long way as far as his future career is concerned. I also know he really wanted, through the feedback, he found out he really needed to improve his 3-point shot. And we kind of saw that last year. It was really shaky, inconsistent at the start of the year. He ended up shooting in the low 30s, I think 31, 32%. But if he can get that up to like 35, 36, I think that's going to go a long way too with NBA scouts, that he has all kind of the rest of the tools needed to be a good NBA player, but improving that shot and really showing that can really up his draft grade.
Yeah, he definitely shot the three ball better towards the end of the season. And when you talk about his fit in this year's team, without Mark, I mean, because of Alabama's the tempo, the amount of guys they use, like a lot of different guys have the ball are important, but and I love Aiden Holloway. We're gonna get to him in a second, but Holloway's obviously wants to take most of his shots from behind the arc, and he can get to the basket and make plays, but he's not the athletic, physical build that Phylon is, and even distributing, like you said, like Phylon, what was it, 3 assists a game last year in a lower usage role. I really believe in him being able to scale that up and really be one of the best players in the SEC. Let's talk about Aiden Holloway. Obviously, interesting. When it happened, the fact that he transferred from Auburn to Alabama, I was like, I can't believe anyone would do that. But then when you see him out there, you're like, it's a perfect fit. And his 3-point shooting was incredible, like 42%, like a volume on 6 attempts per game.
Yeah,
It's just so special to have a guy off the bench who was just that much of a game changer. And I'm excited to see him scale up. Do you think he has progressed, whether it's as a leader, as a facilitator, as a defender? Anything you can kind of project? Because I know when Nate Oats was able to get Holloway to come, the message was, hey, you're going to be a huge piece off our bench. Mark Sears is going to graduate, and then it's go time for you.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for him has been his defense, and he was not a good defender last year. And part of that is his size. Like he's 6'1" on a good day. Like he's listed as 6'1". I don't know if he really is. And he's maybe 175 pounds. So he's a really small guy, and it's hard for short guys who also have kind of a slight build to be good defenders. But I've talked to people around the program, talked to one of the assistants a couple of weeks ago, and he said that that's an area that they've really been harping on with him, and he's kind of answering the challenge. And I don't think he's going to be an all-SEC defender or anything like that, but if he could just be solid and hold his own out there and not like be a traffic cone every time he's on the floor, like that's going to go a long way, not just for Alabama's defense as a whole, but for keeping him on the floor and making sure he can get the minutes that he needs, because he can be such a game changer on the offensive side with the way he can shoot the ball. It was so interesting watching him at Auburn, because it just like, he was a good player and it just didn't click. And for whatever reason, being a freshman, the system, whatever it was, it just didn't click for him. But I was always really high on him. And whenever he committed to Alabama, I was like, he's going to pop here. I really thought that the way that he shot the ball in high school, you don't shoot the ball the way he did in high school and gain the reputation of an elite shooter and then just forget how to shoot in one college season. That's not really how it works. That's another reason I'm high on Jaleel Bethea, who we can get to later. But I think there are similar improvements that can be made based on system fit with the two of those guys, how their freshman season went, and what they can do in Alabama's system. But I mean, he can shoot off the dribble. He can shoot off the catch. He's really fast. He can push the ball in transition, so that really helps. I wouldn't say he's a true point guard. He really likes playing off the ball, and I think he's good off the ball because he's such a good catch and shoot guy. But you're going to see him play a lot with LeBaron. You're going to see him play as the point guard whenever LeBaron's off the floor. He'll probably be the first ball handler, like next in the pecking order after Phylon. And he's a good passer too. He showed a lot of improvements finishing last season. He was a terrible finisher at Auburn his freshman year, and he made a lot of strides and had a lot of tough finishes. I don't know exactly what the percentage was, but I know his 2-point percentage jumped over like 30% from his freshman year to his sophomore year. So he's capable there. I'm not sure if he's going to start or come off the bench, but whichever role he has, I think he's going to be able to excel at it because the fit is so good. And now, he's got another year under his belt. He's more experienced. If that defense is coming along like we think, that just kind of raises his ceiling as a player. And I think he's going to be really good this year.
Latrell Wrightsell, that injury, kind of went a little under the radar. If I'm not mistaken, he even on the Final Four run, he was a little in and out of the lineup. Like he definitely was missing some time there. He's such a great player, and he's a better defender probably definitely than Holloway, but just he's a good defender than on a team like Alabama. He's valuable. So 12 points a game when he did play last year, 42% from three. Is he healthy? When are you expecting him to be ready to go? And just any other notes about him this summer?
Yeah, he's healthy, or he's getting healthy. That Achilles tear happened in late November, if I remember right. It was the Oregon game. So, that was like the last game they played in November. He's had a long time to recover. He's, I think, going full speed now, like playing 5-on-5, like going 100% in practice. Now, health-wise, he's not quite at 100%, but he's practicing and doing the full workload. So that's really good for Alabama. I think he's going to be ready to go for the first game. I wouldn't be shocked if his minutes are a little less, because I think when he's fully healthy, he's starter caliber, and I think he makes a lot of sense to start at the 2 for Alabama and maybe bring Aiden Holloway off the bench as your 6th man or something like that. I wouldn't be shocked if that's flipped to start the season, just as Latrell just kind of gets his legs underneath him and kind of gets back in playing shape, because you can practice all you want, but games are a little different. But he's really, really impactful. That Final Four year, he was in and out of the lineup during that NCAA tournament run. I think he got a concussion late in the regular season, missed the SEC tournament, played the first 2 games, and then got another concussion against Grand Canyon in the second round. And then he came back for the Final Four. I think he played in the Final Four. But he's dealt with injuries a lot throughout his career. But that Final Four season, the 2024 season, the last time he was fully healthy, Alabama went undefeated when he scored double digits. So he was kind of an X factor. Like if he's on, like Alabama's in a great spot. Even last year, he came out of the gates. He was blazing. I think he was shooting like 43% from 3. And that was with a game early in the season where he went like 1 for 9. So if you take that game out of it, I think he was over 50% on the year in the couple of games that he was able to play. So he's one of the best shooters. I think he's one of the best shooters in the SEC, maybe the country. And so it's going to be really big to have him back. He also is just like kind of a bulldog mentality type player. He's not the best, like, he's also a little smaller. He's 6'3". He has a little shorter wingspan. So he's not like an elite defender, but he brings that kind of bulldog defensive mentality that kind of bleeds throughout the whole lineup. And he's a guy who like will get up in the opposing point guard's face, like pick him up full court, do things like that. And just really is a gamer. Like he just brings it every game and is a really valuable piece. And I'm excited to see him healthy, because that was one of my biggest disappointments really was with last year's team when they started hitting their stride, and same with like that BYU game in the Sweet 16. I was like, man, what if Latrell Wrightsell was healthy too? Like how many more threes would they be hitting in this game? So I'm really excited to see him back on the floor.
Before we get into the front court guys, which is where I think that's going to decide the season, we'll get there. But Houston Millette comes over from Pepperdine, sniper. I know he was going to redshirt, and then all of a sudden Trelly gets hurt, and it's like, hey, do you want to play? Like, we'll use you. And then I think he got hurt. And then Jaleel Bethea from Miami, 5-star recruit, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a high flyer, he's like top 20. And that team was just a total mess. Larry Nagel loses his job, and like I kind of want to just throw that tape out the window because it was just like so bad. But I know that he obviously was very sought after and is a huge talent. So tell me how he had an injury too. I'm pretty sure he had foot surgery. So tell me about those guys' health and just expectations for them this season.
Yeah, I'll start with Bethea. He broke his pinky toe, strangely enough, like early, like a week ago or whatever it was. I think he had like a lingering foot issue, and then it got to the point where he needed surgery. So he's had surgery. He's going to be out for a little bit. I think he'll be back in non-conference play. He'll be back before SEC play starts. Very similar, actually, to what happened with Chris Youngblood last season when he had an ankle injury, and then he came back in like early December. I think that's the kind of timeline we're probably looking at for Bethea. But kind of like I said earlier, I think his fit is going to be really good in this Alabama system. He's super athletic, can shoot the ball really well. He's another guy who was an elite shooter in high school, like Holloway was. He was a 5-star. I think he was a top 10 guy. And I was seeing him in like a year and a half before last year's NBA draft. He was like being put in like way too early top 5s on mock drafts and things like that. But obviously everything went wrong with that Miami team last year. Alabama wanted Jaleel out of high school, and he ended up going to Miami, and now he's at Alabama. I think he's going to be good. It's going to take him a little while to kind of get his feet under him, as it is with anybody coming off of an injury. But I think once he does, and once he gets in the flow of things, I think he can be really valuable. Houston Millette, I'm really high on, and I think he's going to be the guy that kind of steps in and fills a void with Bethea out. He is one of the smartest players I've ever talked to, and one of just a really good, like, wise guy. And he's great. If you listen to any interviews with him, he was redshirting to start the year, which was crazy considering he was a senior and had already played 3 years at Pepperdine. He came in, he saw how loaded the roster was, and he kind of made the decision with Nate Oats, like, I'm good. I'm going to redshirt this season. Like, they thought that was best for him. And they were like, you can become a bigger piece on the 2025-2026 team a year later. So he unselfishly was like, I'm okay redshirting while all these other guys play in my senior year, and I'll come back a year later. Then Wrightsell gets hurt, and he comes back and he plays like 6 games. And then towards the end of it, he ends up having a knee issue that rules him out for the rest of the season, and he's able to get a medical redshirt. So he's kind of been through a lot, played a little bit, not played. When he did play, he shot the ball really well. He was 50% from 3. He was on super low volume, but I think he was 5 of 10 or something like that. And really good hustle player. I mean, he was diving for loose balls, putting his body on the line, like jumping out of bounds to save loose balls and everything like that. Like that, the kind of stuff that's like infectious and gets the team fired up. Like, he's that kind of player. And Nate Oats loves to, talk about blue collar and hard hat. Like, that's the kind of player that he loves to coach, a guy like Houston Millette that does that. Now he's healthy. His knee issue is solved. He's all good there, and he's had a really, really good offseason. I went to an open practice that they had back in May, I think it was, and I kid you not, he made over 50% of his threes in like a live practice. Hand in his face, deep, like NBA range. It did not matter. Like, on that day, he was the best shooter on the floor on a team that has a lot of really good shooters. And I've heard nothing but good things about how he's playing. Bethea's more talented, and Bethea might be the most talented player on the roster. But from people I've talked to, like, Houston was maybe in position for a starting spot even before Bethea got hurt. That's the kind of impact that he's been able to have. I bet he has a really big role this season, and he's just another one of those like plethora of shooters that Alabama is going to have on the outside. That kind of reinforces what I said earlier, that I think this might be the best shooting team that they've had. He's going to be a huge part of that.
I was really high on the young depth bigs last year. I was sad to see Darion Reed go to Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken. And then Aiden Sherrell is back, though, and he only played 8 minutes a game last year, but you really saw his ability kind of jump off the page. A big body, can move well, shot the 3, made some threes. I only shot 33%, but like I remember against Florida, he would go 2 for 2 from 3, and like there were some big shots. I think another year in the system, offensively, you're just a little bit more comfortable just in that pick and pop, just those flare screens at the top. Like, I'm expecting a big leap from him. For a guy who averaged 8 minutes a game last year, it's a lot to kind of throw him in. Expect this to be a preseason top 15 team, which I definitely think they are. But what has his progression kind of been, and what were the key, growth areas that he was working on this summer?
Yeah, he's coming along well. I think if there's one player on this team that I like really have like I think he's going to be really good. It's him. I was really excited when Alabama got him out of high school, just because from a fit perspective and the type of player he is, like there's no better like center to play in Nate Oats' system than the skill set that he brings. It took him a little bit to come along last season, and I think a lot of that is being a freshman, and being a freshman big specifically is really hard unless you're like Cooper Flagg or Malawach or those insane guys that Duke have. Like he's going to be the way that he can shoot the ball. He's a much better shooter than his percentages showed last year. And a lot of that was volume because he hardly got in. And whenever he did get in, that just skews numbers compared to like what his practice numbers were. For example, I also think he's going to be physically able to compete in the SEC. He grew in that area a lot over the course of the season. He struggled with physicality early in kind of November, December. But once you got into February and March, he was huge in the first half of Alabama's upset over Auburn at the end of the year. Auburn had probably the best front court in the country last year. Sherrell came in while Cliff Amore was in foul trouble, got 2-and-1s, got a couple offensive rebounds, held his own against Janai Broome as much as anybody really could last year. So that impressed me and just showed me kind of how far he's come along. And he added 10 pounds of muscle in the offseason. He's up to 255 pounds. He's at 6'10", 6'11", whatever he's listed at. So he's a really big, kind of physically imposing guy, but also he's going to be huge in the pick and pop. He was great in the pick and roll last year. He moves pretty well for his size. He needs to take a leap for Alabama to be the team that like fulfills their potential. It's going to be a little tough because, you know, he's only a sophomore. I think he's capable of being very good. And I think down the line, he's going to be very good. I think he's going to probably start on this year's team at center. And I'm just really excited to see it because I think he's got the potential and the skill set to fit the system really well.
Taylor Bowen come over from Florida State, 6'10", 8 points a game on 25 minutes, but shot 41% from deep. If I'm not mistaken, he shot 47% in league play, and that was not a bad Florida State team. When I go back and watch him, you know, he's not afraid to let it fly in transition, like in just similar, some of the catch and shoot or just the shot locations. It was just very Alabama reminiscent. Like I think they really did their homework on this guy. He's huge and lengthy. I don't know how physical he is, but I expect him to kind of slot in alongside Sherrell in that starting lineup. Is that what you're expecting? And what else have you heard about Bull Bowen?
Yeah, it is. I expect him to be the starting four. And I think he's another guy that, like, I didn't watch a lot of ACC basketball last year, but when I did watch a lot of Florida State. But whenever I saw that they were recruiting him out of the portal, I went and watched some of his stuff, and I was like, wow, like he fits. Like he really fits what Alabama likes to do. The 41% from three on, I think it was 2.6 attempts a game. That's huge. And that from the four-man in Alabama's offense is always going to be one that's going to take shots, a lot of corner threes, but they haven't had a lot of guys lately who shot it well. Grant Nelson has been the four pretty much for the past 2 seasons. He was 25% from three last year. And he hit some big threes in different moments, but not a good percentage-wise shooter.
And I was surprised to see Jaron Stevenson was only 31% last year. I felt like he didn't really shoot the ball
well last year. And it felt like he maybe shot it better than he did. You go back a couple of years, Noah Gurley played the four and was shooting like high 20s. Noah Clowney, who's in the NBA now, went first round. He didn't even break 30%. So if Taylor Bowen can be shooting, you know, not even 41, if he can be 37, 38%, even down a couple notches with higher volume from last season, that's a huge boost and a lot more made shots from that position than Alabama's used to getting. He's also got great length. I think he's going to be a really good weak side shot blocker, coming over as a help defender. Like that's going to be huge for a front court that doesn't have a lot of proven rim protection. I think that's probably one of the more glaring weaknesses on this roster going into this season, because they just don't have a Cliff Amore, like former like Big Ten all defense guy coming in to be that shot blocker. So with the length that he has, I think his wingspan's over 7 feet. Like that's going to be huge. Coming over and helping on drives and things like that. He can also defend on the perimeter. Like he's a versatile enough player to be able to guard a shorter wing that plays out on the perimeter, and that length can give people insane problems. A lot of versatility. He can be a lob threat. He can put the ball on the deck a little bit. He can finish. Like very unique player because he's like 6'10". He moves like a guard a little bit. He's gonna play the 4, but like Alabama plays 4 out, so he's gonna be on the perimeter. He's gonna play the wing. And again, he's another guy who he just fits what they like to do. I think fit is really the word that describes this team. I don't think talent-wise this team is better than last year's team. It's not necessarily the most talented group Oats has had, but it's a lot of guys who really fit what they want to do, which makes it really exciting to see what that looks like on the court.
Great point about the weak side shot blocking. 1.5 blocks and a steal per game last year, and can really move his feet. And I love the point you made about how important it is for Alabama's 4-man to be able to hit that three-pointer from the corner, because they are so hard to guard in the tempo you play at. And you know, the when they're shooting everywhere and there's someone diving, that weakest link 3-point shooter is kind of the guy who might end up with the most looks. So if there really isn't a weak link outside of the 5, but not like the Sherrell can shoot it too. It's like when everyone can shoot it, like
exactly.
It's just the system's going to be cooking. No Williamson coming over from Bucknell, Patriot League Player of the Year. I'm pretty sure he's from Latvia, 18-8 with a block, and he shot 44%. If you look at it, this is why you got to dive in, because it says he's a 32% 3-point shooter, but in conference play, he shot 44%. Yeah. I know he's also kind of a back to the basket big, and like the Patriot League to the SEC is a massive jump, but this guy's obviously a skilled big man. How do you expect him to adjust to the SEC and kind of scale up that 3-point volume, or I guess adjust from kind of like Cliff, like just playing in a very different system?
Yeah, I think it's it'll be a little bit of a challenge with him. I think he's a good piece. I think from a physicality standpoint, like that's a big body. He's a true 7-footer. Like that's really good to have in the SEC, where you have front courts like Florida running around and just unreal. So he's going to play. I think Alabama's pace so far this offseason has been a little hard for him to adjust to, which isn't surprising. Bucknell doesn't play at the same pace that Alabama does. And that was similar with Cliff. I mean, Cliff struggled even once we got into the season to really adjust to that pace. Alabama bigs historically under Nate Oats do not play heavy minutes. Like even when Charles Bediako was there, like he didn't top really 21, 22 minutes a game. So the centers aren't going to top more than half the game. So you got to have depth. No Williamson's going to be that depth. Like I don't think either him or Sherrell will have games where they go 25 minutes a game at all. Just with how much they run, how many possessions they play, you've got to have them for the defensive end, but also they've got a rim run. So you've got to rotate out. I think Williamson, he can shoot it a little bit. And I think that's going to be really big, because you're going to, both of your 5s, you're going to have 2 stretch 5s, 2 guys that can run pick and pop, 2 guys who can shoot it from the top of the key, shoot it from the wing and be capable there. I think he was a pretty good shot blocker at Bucknell, or at least a decent one. So that's going to help just as a big body being able to wall up on the inside. I don't expect much, back to the basket. He's capable. And I guess if he proves to be able to do that against, high-level SEC competition, you could see that. There have been times where Nate has needed a bucket and he's thrown it into a big man and said, hey, go get me a post hook or something like that. I don't expect a ton of that. But I'm interested to see how he adjusts going up a level, or going up really multiple levels, because Patriot League to the SEC is a pretty big jump. So that's why I'm not like super bullish on like, oh, he's going to immediately be, an all SEC caliber player or anything like that. I'm taking it slow. I think he's going to be a solid big man and good depth. And I think that's great. I think that's a role that he can fill and that he can do well.
A few more guys to run through. The last transfer, Katon Bristo from Tarleton State. This was the WAC freshman of the year, 11-4 with 2 stocks per game. What is this jump look like for him? Is he a 4-man, or is he that third big? Is he that third center behind Williamson? What do you expect from Bristo?
He's fascinating to me because really unknown prospect, and it seems like he was a late bloomer as far as his development goes in high school. He's if Alabama's roster listings are right, he's hit a growth spurt, and so what is he? Do you have his measurements from?
I see him at 6'10".
Okay, yeah, he's listed at 6'10" for Alabama right now. I think he was listed at 6'8" for Tarleton last year.
Oh wow!
Not sure if that's true or not. But he's 6'10", but he's really a big wing. And they're not the same player, but I see a lot of the same role that like Mo Diabate played for Alabama last year as a kind of backup big wing / forward that's really high energy. Like I think Bristow is going to be a really good defender. The assistant coach I talked to a couple weeks ago was Brian Adams, who he mans up Alabama's defense, and he's kind of the defensive coordinator of the coaching staff, so to speak. And he really raved about Bristow and his versatility, long arms, super athletic, able to guard a lot of different positions. He can guard bigs if he needs to. He can guard guards if he needs to. He offensively, I'm interested to see how that comes along. He's got some skill. He's an okay shooter. I think probably like mid to low 30s. But he's not, I don't think he's going to be a guy that comes out and, averages 10 points a game or anything like that. But I think he can come off the bench and be a really impactful, defensive, like scrappy hustle type of piece. A junkyard dog, like that kind of guy that everyone needs, someone like that coming off the bench. That's the kind of role I envision for him. Also, I think long-term, he can be a really good project and be a solid player in the future because he's only a sophomore. He was the freshman of the year in his conference last year. So he's got 3 years of eligibility left. So I think he can have a good year this year and build on that and be a piece that Alabama kind of keeps on developing going forward. But I'm excited about him just because the team was much better defensively last year than they were the Final Four year, but they want to take another jump, and I think they can with the kind of combination of length and athleticism that they have, and Bristow is a big part of that.
So yes, he was listed at 6'8" last year for Alabama. For Tarleton State, and he shot 32% on over 2 attempts per game. So obviously, on almost 3 attempts per game. So obviously, that even if he's brought in to kind of be that defensive hustle guy, like there is upside, and I like the.
Oh yeah, there's skill and there's offensive upside there. I'm not sure how quickly it immediately translates to the SEC. I think it's there to build on though for sure.
And then you talk about just defensively, it's so interesting that of the years they've made the tournament in the Nate Oats era, their worst defense on KenPom is the year they made the Final Four. It's just kind of funny to me. Yeah. But before I get you out of here, Blake, we've got 3 4-star freshmen coming in. 6'8" London Jameson, 6'6" Davion Hanna, 6'8" Amari Allen. I feel like Alabama continues to kind of bring in these freshmen who are kind of ready to go role players. Sometimes you get a guy like Phylon who's ready for more, but I kind of just have an expectation with the way Nate Oats runs this program that these 3 guys are athletic, they can shoot it, and they're going to be ready to go to play as depth roles. Is that fair? And is anyone – I remember you hyping up Phylon to me last year a lot. Is there a lot of hype around any of these guys?
Actually, yes. Amari Allen has been the one that's really getting a lot of hype throughout this offseason, this preseason. He is a 6'8" wing, and he's like picture what Nate Oats wants in a player. He's 6'8", he's athletic, he can shoot. Like he's got all of that, and he has just really shown out from everything that we've heard and kind of I don't know, but if separated himself is the right word, but he's been the surprise from this freshman class and been better than they expected him to be at a position where you can't have enough depth. Like Alabama could I think Nate would field 5 wings if he could. I think he would have a roster of 13 wings if he could. And so being a 6'8" guy who can defend, who can put the ball on the deck, who can score it, who can shoot it really well, like that's all really exciting. And I think he is probably, if I had to pick one guy out of the freshman class to really make an impact, I'd go with him. The freshman class is interesting because there aren't like 5 stars. Not that it's not a good class, but there aren't like the guys who you immediately see and like that's a plug and play guy. Kind of like some of the guys they're recruiting in this next class that they hope they can be. So it's really about who separates themselves and is able to carve out a role among all of these older guys and transfers and 5 returners that are all coming back. And if I had to bet on one, I would go with Allen from what I've heard so far.
Before I get you out of here, any last nuggets of things you've heard or want to share or any predictions? I personally think Alabama is being slept on a bit just because you don't see the name value at some of the positions, like specifically that starting 4-5, like Bull Bowman come from a bad Florida State team, 8 points a game last year, Sherrell 8 minutes a game last year, but like this team has the 10 guys, 10 plus maybe guys that Nate Oats wants to use. They're going to be a good 3-point shooting team, and defensively, I think there's places for growth. Like Phylon can hit another level. I really think that Nate Oats has earned the benefit of the doubt of like he's going to have a top 4 seed. Like unless there's some catastrophic injuries, the floor to me is like a top 16 team, top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament, and then anything can happen once you get there. Is that how you're kind of looking at this group? Because I feel like I'm higher than consensus on this group.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think people are a little lower, and I do think it's kind of like the name recognition, and there aren't a lot of – they didn't land the big flashy transfer, and they didn't bring in the big flashy freshman that gets all of the attention in the preseason. But I do think it's a really good roster, and kind of like I said earlier, I don't think it's the most talented roster he's ever had, but it might be the best fitting together roster that he's ever had. And I think that really goes a long way in how it's going to translate on the floor. I think as far as expectations go, I always try to go on the conservative side. I would probably say like at least a top 5 seed. I would say somewhere in there. I think it's a top 25 team. I think it's probably a top 15 team and has the potential to be even better if everything kind of clicks together right. Schedule's brutal. Like they have some tests, which may limit, where they're ranked throughout the season. Because
who cares about the damn AP poll? Remember when they made the Final Four? They were like top 10 in KenPom, and they were like 6-6 or something like that.
Yeah. No, that you're gonna have something like that this year, I think, because Nate Oats has had some tough schedules. This year is the hardest schedule he's ever put together. It's ridiculous. Like I'll read you a couple here. He's at St. John. Well, first game of the season, he has a bye game. Second game of the year, they're at St. John's, and so they jump right into it. From there, they get Purdue at home. They play Illinois and Chicago. They go to Vegas for the Players Era. They play Gonzaga there and 2 other games. They play Clemson at home. They play Arizona in Birmingham. Those are your non-conference games. Like that's an absurd schedule. So they're going to take some losses early and, bring a new team together. Like that's going to be tough. The SEC is really tough. So you could look up in, February or March, and this could be an 8, 9, 10 loss team, but they're still going to be really dangerous. But I think they're like that KenPom strength of schedule. I think they're going to be at the very top once again, as they typically are, and they'll be battle tested, and that'll mean they'll be ready to go when the tournament comes around.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way that he tests them. It just makes sense also, like, you're not only preparing your players and your young guys for SEC play in the tournament, but like you're just giving yourself more opportunities for quad one wins. I think they played the 9th toughest schedule in the country non-con last year, and it should be right around that spot again. So thank you so much for joining, Blake. Always fun to talk Alabama. Nate Oats, you guys are very lucky to have him running your program because he knows how to optimize basketball. Like simply put, to people who I know who are NBA first, I say if you kind of want a college basketball team to watch Alabama because it's the closest thing. So I'm a big fan. Thank you for coming on to break it down with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Fun time for sure.